afternoon and welcome back to Questioning Scents with me, Matt. Today I'm going to talk to you about a fragrance I got quite a while ago and I'm just kind of revisiting it. I haven't worn it for a long time and I wore it today for the first time in ages, and it got me thinking actually it's probably worth talking about. So quite a while ago I decided to try and have a look at some of the designer fragrances out there with oud in. There seemed to be every house was releasing a new flanker or trying to get in on the oud bandwagon would probably be a better way of putting it, or maybe I'm being a bit disrespectful there, I don't know. But there was quite a few out, and I thought, right, let's have a look at them. So I'm a big fan of Dunhill's Icon, so I went straight to Dunhill. Actually, I went straight to Debenhams and tried Icon Absolute, the gold bottled Icon flanker, because it's supposed to have been quite oudy. So as I say, I went to Debenhams, had a good spray of it, and really liked the opening. I really liked what I smelled. So I went up to the cafe there and had a coffee. By the time I'd finished my coffee, I'd finished with this as well. It just disappeared. The performance was shocking. So I kind of scrubbed that off the list, although I did really like the smell. I just can't, I couldn't warrant buying something that lasted on my skin for less than an hour. So that was a bit disappointing. I then tried Versace's Oud Noir. Again, I quite like the opening on that one, but it seemed to disappear really, really quickly. And then I tried Ralph Lauren's Polo. They've got an oud version out there. I forgot the name, but we'll get the details up. Again, that smelled quite nice as well. I think the Icon, the Gold Icon Absolute, that smelled the best of the three. But I wasn't particularly impressed with the performance of any of them, so I was going to give it up. And then I read some online reviews about this one, which is Boss Bottled Oud. So in typical fashion, I blind bought a little 50ml bottle of it for pretty good money actually. And I'll be honest, I'll talk a bit more about it as we go along, but it ain't bad. Boss brought out their bottled range, I think in '98, and I'll be completely honest, I've never tried any of them. I've never worn any of them. I don't know why. I just think they never really particularly appealed to me. So it was a bit of a gamble, but some positive reviews, and I'm a sucker for a blind buy. So this is what I got. This came out in 2015, and I think there's probably a bit of a fanfare about it, but I wasn't, well and truly wasn't involved in that at all. I only really kind of got into it when I decided to try some of these designer ouds. So it arrived, and what I'll do is I'll give it another spray now. And one of the things that kind of drew me into it was quite a few people online had said that it lasts well, which is quite important to me because I was looking for something that I could wear to work that would probably be a little less strong than some of my other ouds. I've got quite a few different scents from the house of Mancera, and in some ways they're kind of like Mancera, probably my favourite house. I've got 5 I think now, but the thing is with them, they can all kind of become a little bit similar. To me they're all very, very different. I mean, my wife is like, I can't really tell them apart, to be honest. They all smell like oud and they all smell like this. So I was looking for something a bit different, and the notes to this really were quite up my street. So I'm just going to put my bins on and have a quick look at the notes. So what you're looking at is an opening of citrus with apples. First of all, Boss say that this is masculine with a touch of luxury, which is always nice to read. Whether it is or not remains to be seen. And at the heart we have saffron, cloves and cinnamon and labdanum. And then at the base we have cipriola, sandalwood and the all-important oud. So what does it smell like? Well, first and foremost, it opens really, really nicely. You have the citruses and the apples quite prominent. Apparently the apple's quite prominent in all of the bottled range, but again, sorry, I'm not going to try and bluff. I don't know because I've not smelt them. This is the only one I've smelt. But the oud sits with the citrus, and it actually, I'll tell you what, considering this is a real cheapie now, for 50ml you get this for a really, really good price. The oud actually doesn't smell as synthetic as it must be. I mean, there's no way that they're going to be using a real oud in this because, or a natural oud, because it's such an expensive ingredient, and they're not expensive. This is not an expensive product. So you're going to get it's going to be sort of some kind of synthetic, but it smells really, really nice. And the oud is actually, it does smell quite real. The citruses around it, it kind of gives a bit of depth to the citrusy smell, and it does make it quite interesting. It's not a bad smell at all. What happens is that actually stays there for quite a while, and the oud, what I like about it is it kind of disappears a little bit, and then it comes back, and then it disappears, and then it comes back. When all the notes start to come together with this, I can't help but feel that it's verging on the edge of being a gourmand. There's cinnamon in this, and I mean, whenever you put apple and cinnamon together, the first thing you're going to think of is apple pie. And thankfully, it is not giving me an apple pie. It is sweet though. When I was wearing it today, I was at work, and I don't know, it gave me a little bit of a vibe of Coca-Cola. I don't think that's what they were going for, but it's not unpleasant. But it is, it's quite a sweet smell. The citruses together with the spices do give a kind of a sweet woody smell, and I think that little bit of oud in there tips it over, and it does make it veer a little bit towards Coca-Cola, which, I mean, if you're a fan of Coca-Cola, that's good. If you're not, you might want to steer clear of this, but not an unpleasant smell at all. As it dries down, after a couple of hours, it starts becoming a little bit less sweet maybe, and a little bit more woody, and then it sort of loses, because it's quite rich and it's quite dark smelling, and over time it kind of lightens up a bit, so it sort of, as it starts to fade out towards the end of its life, I suppose this is what I would imagine, it starts to come back to smelling like one of the normal non-oud in the range. Now, I've noticed that there are some flankers of this have come out as well. So I think you've got Boss Bottled Oud Saffron, and I think there's another one as well. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't know. This is all right. There's a reason why I haven't worn it for a long time, and I remembered that today, and that's because it's just not very exciting. You know, it's not unpleasant. It doesn't set the world on fire. It's quite a nice wear. It's not, I don't think this is challenging. I mean, I've got a lot stronger scents than this, and I still wear them wherever I want. I'm not, you know, I've never had anybody complain about sort of me wearing one of the Manceras or even one of my Montal scents. So I think people sometimes, if they're not used to wearing a heavier scent, think that it's too much for the people around them. When in actual fact, I don't think it is. As long as you're not overspraying, which is another one of my guilty pleasures. As long as you're not overspraying it, I think you can wear heavier scents than you possibly think you could for work. But in this case, this is definitely safe for work. It's a good scent for work, but for me, I don't know, it's just a little bit unexciting. It's a nice scent though. Blind Buy Safe, yes. I think a lot of people will be looking at this as possibly their first steps into the world of oud. I mean, we'll have a quick look at the bottle, and I'll get some pictures up there. It's as dull as dishwater. I suppose they've got to stick within the parameters of the range of scents that they're making, the marketing, etc., etc. So they're never going to be able to suddenly have one bottle in that range that's super exciting. I mean, it's perfectly fine. It's functional. The spray is good. The cap's solid. You know, it's nice. You can hold it up to the light to see how much liquid you've got in there. So it's an easy bottle to live with, but it is just a bit dull. And I think in hindsight, talking about the scent, there are some nice parts of it. The opening is really good. I like the citrus and the oud, and I like the way the other notes come in. I like the spices, the saffron and everything else, the cinnamon coming in with the apple and resisting the urge to turn into an apple pie. That's quite clever, because you've got some quite heavy scents there. They balance quite well. But to me, what you've got is a scent that does start after a while to smell very much like Coca-Cola, and then it dries off to a sort of a kind of a fruity, woody affair with a little bit. The oud just slowly disappears and leaves this to be quite a mundane scent. So if you're looking to start wearing an oud-based scent, then this is a really good place to start. Its performance is much better in my experience and in my opinion than the scents, the fragrances that it's competing against. The ones I mentioned earlier in the video, this certainly outperforms all of them by quite some distance. So it's a good investment in that respect. If you're looking for a scent to wear to work, this is perfectly good. It's loudest within the first hour, and then it calms down, and it does sit quite close to the skin. It doesn't project much after the hour, but it's a very nice skin scent, and it's a very noticeable skin scent, but it's not, you know, it's not kicking out. So I personally think it's perfectly safe for the office or whatever you do for a living. It's not a problem. If people get in close, it does smell quite interesting. And I think for those people that maybe aren't that into scents, you know, the people, I mean, you must be into fragrance, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this. So we can take it as a given that you've got some experience of fragrance and you're interested in it. So you're not going to be sort of alarmed by these things. People around you at work that may not have an interest in scents won't be offended by it. They'll be able to come in and they'll find you, you know, you'll smell quite interesting, a little bit like Coca-Cola, but you'll smell interesting. So it's not offensive in that respect. And that for me makes it safe for a blind buy. I think it's a good value blind buy as well. I think maybe because Boss have released some flankers, this probably may have dropped down in cost a bit, whilst the flankers are a little bit more expensive at the moment. I'm sure they're all going to hit discounters if you want to go down that road. I'm not particularly interested in trying any more of these. I've done this one now, so I'm not going to go back into the range. There's probably a reason why I don't own any other Boss scents. Maybe over the years I've tried them and not got on with them, or I've just not found them that interesting enough to want to buy. But hey ho, I've got this one. I don't reach for it often. I haven't worn this in a long time, but it was a nice surprise actually. I sprayed it this morning before I went to work, and it smelled good, and I quite liked it. And it got me through my work day without any problem. Obviously when I came home, it had pretty much gone. Just a very faint skin scent, but that's kind of what you want, really. You know, I've got a lot of scents that last for days, and you know that'll just mean, you know, it's there all the time. And sometimes it's nice to just pick up one that you know you're going to get a shift out of, for, you know, get a day's work out of, and then come home and that's you done. So to summarise, it's good, it's functional, it's not massively exciting, it's not going to set the world on fire. It's a really good introduction to an oud-based scent because the oud in it does smell quite real, and it's unpleasant. You know, it's not unpleasant. It's a nice wear, just not an exciting one. So as always, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate that. I hope this has been some help to you, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Thanks very much. Bye.